Well, this is not only the last right angle of the year, it's the last right angle of the decade, and that calls for a retrospective, a look back at 2020. And we are not going to do that because all three of us have decided we'd rather gouge out all six of our eyes before we take another closer look at this miserable wreck of a horrible nightmare that we've had. So rather than looking back on this abomination called 2020, or even on the abomination called the teens, we thought we might take a look forward. And so that's what we're going to do. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott, and this is your Right Angle 2030. Prospective is what it is, I suppose. Gentlemen, I've done the math in my head, and the brutal mechanics of logic tell me there are only three potential alternatives. One of them is that the three of us 10 years from now will be heads inside of jars in a nuclear reactive wasteland. Option number two is that we will, all three of us, have ourselves carved onto Mount Rushmore, meaning at least a total of 7. Or option number three is that the three of us will be fighting and tearing each other's skin from each other's eyes as we fight for what might be left of the sauce in the last can of Fancy Feast as we spend the last of our frigid winters in the re-education camps. So it's going to be one of those three. Steve, in some seriousness, can you give me a couple of ideas of what you think things might look like 10 years from now? We're not going to pretend 1 year from now because that's just too depressing. Let's just give time for Jesus to come back or something, you know. So what do you think? What do you think is going to be happening in 10 years?
Well, I'll do this in two phases, politically and then personally, and I'll try and get the political part out of the way as quickly as I can because it gets kind of ugly. Where we are in 10 years depends entirely on whether the world is still willing to honor the good credit of the United States. We've spent the 21st century racking up debt like you wouldn't believe, and I finally quit writing about it. I've been on this. Yeah. I have been on this story since George W. Bush's first term in office. In fact, there was a while there in the very early days of Vodka Pundit, like 2003, 4, 5, that vodkapundit.com was the #1 search result for the phrase spendthrift Republican Congress. So I've been on both sides of this. And then, you know, Obama comes in and makes Bush look like a piker, you know, 1.8 trillion in money we didn't have, just, you know, it's his first month in office with that stimulus bill. And now with the whole COVID thing, there's no semblance of fiscal sanity. We're just writing off trillions like you wouldn't believe. The only good thing, unless alleged President-elect Joe Biden screws this up, is fracking could be the thing that saves our bacon when the bills come due. Because what scared the crap out of me is the only reason oil is so relatively cheap for us is that the dollar is the world's trading currency. Oil is priced in dollars, whether you're buying it in Germany or South Africa or Japan. Everybody needs dollars to buy the oil. And so we're the world's reserve currency. And this gives us some flexibility in how much money we print up because the world needs dollars. What scared the crap out of me before fracking was if the world decided, you know, these Americans are never going to get their spending act together. We're gonna stop using the dollar to price oil. We would have gone from $100 oil at the time to $500 oil or $1,000 oil, and it would have happened faster than you could blink. It just would have just destroyed the economy. With fracking and us being the world's #1, #2 energy producer in the world, that's a lifeline that if the world decides to go different, we can probably ride at least that part out and maintain some semblance of an economy. So that's the bad news. We either get our fiscal house in order, or it's eventually the world's going to say enough of these people, and they will have had enough of us, and so will we. Personally, I've accelerated my plans. I joked for years that when Colorado filled up, I would move to Montana. And I really didn't expect that to happen in my lifetime. And the problem is Colorado hasn't exactly filled up, but it's filled up enough with Californians that I plan to accelerate my plans to retire retire. Well, not retire, but to move to Montana. My oldest is in 5th grade. 10 years from now, he should be a sophomore or a junior in college. And I would like at that point by then to be somewhere north of here near the mountains on a little plot of my own with my wife. And I'm going to name our little 5-acre, not really a ranch. I'm going to name our little 5-acre plot, Get Off My Lawn. And if Montana fills up, then I'm moving to Alaska. And by the time Alaska fills up, Elon Musk should have Muskville, a thriving city on Mars, and that's where I'll go next. So I don't expect to live that long. It's been a trying year. I've got a lot of hope for the future. Unfortunately, most of my hope rests on having made some sound personal choices and being able to ride out the coming storm.
We'll leave that with the mysterious and somewhat intimidating aura that it hangs in the air with.
By the way, Bill,
Scott,
I'd like Steve to name that little ranch the Get Off My Lawn DeRosa.
Perfect. I am totally stealing that from you.
I would say I wouldn't stop in Montana. I would keep going till you get to Yellowknife. That's my personal opinion. But
all right.
I know Californians better than you do. Scott, what do you think 10 years from now? I mean, do you think we'll be doing this? Do you think that there will be anything like it in America? Do you think it'll be against the law to do what we're doing now? Do you think things will get better? What do you think's in store?
I was having a conversation with somebody who shall remain nameless, but somebody who has some influence in this country. And we were talking about the future, and he allowed, as the future was going to become more divisive and balkanized, and that this country was going to further split apart. And I said, given the role that you and I both play in this world, having a public voice of sorts, how do you know that we're not part of what's making it more balkanized? How do we absolve ourselves of the future that we've prophesied? And I still have this crazy notion that people are going to get sick enough of it. And I don't mean sick of people on the other side. I mean sick of a strategy for trying to advance our ideas that never advances our ideas, but merely gets us divided into camps so that one side is shouting at the other and we're not advancing on any substantive fronts. I still think that there's hope for this country. Not that we're all going to come together and sing Kumbaya and agree with each other, but I think there are enough areas of common interest that we can agree to work together on. And even in those areas where we don't currently work together, we can start doing a better job at listening to each other and saying, have I really heard what the other guy is saying? Or have I already decided what I think he's going to say and basically hemmed him into a certain path, and he can only go in this direction in my mind? Maybe it's because of my training as a salesperson, but when I run into somebody who tells me that they don't like the price, or they don't like my selection, or they don't like this particular piece of furniture, I don't snap out at them and say, "You idiot. You don't deserve this furniture. You're the reason why furniture as an industry is going down the toilet." I don't start unloading on them. I try to find out, okay, well, what does he really want? Why is he angry right now? Why is he giving me a hard time? And so I try to do a better job at asking questions and at listening. And 9 out of 10 times, I find some common interest that allows us to move forward into a financial relationship where he walks out feeling good about it, and I walk out with a little more money in my pocket. And if we can see this country that way, not just transactionally, but in a sense morally, like my obligation as a human being is not to shout my product's features in somebody's face, but is to actually sell the product, is to convince people that it's desirable to buy the product. We start doing more of that kind of fundamental free market capitalistic salesmanship that has made this country great. We start applying that to the realm of ideas, and I think we'll start to see people coming closer together, and we'll find areas where we can work together. We'll delineate those areas where we've agreed for now to not move forward because we can't figure out a solution that'll work for most people. And crazy me, I think 10 years from now, a show like this may be less necessary, and you and I will be trying to get our cats to do clever things on camera.
Well, in all seriousness, I've used this analogy before, and it's not a pleasant analogy unless you really think about it, and then suddenly it is. And it's just as simple. This has been a terrible year, and especially with the election and the American people and on both sides, but it's just been a really traumatic, bad year. And I think for conservatives and people in the audience of the show, I don't think anybody thought things would go as far south as they have, as quickly as they have. And that's very shocking. So it's a traumatizing time for all of us. And the thing I keep coming back to is it's a traumatizing thing when you finally decide to go in and deal with that kind of strange dull ache that you've had for quite a long time, and you go to the doctor's office and he tells you you've got cancer. And that is a traumatic experience too, and everybody fears that, and that's why so many people don't go to the doctor in the first place. But the prognosis, a cancer diagnosis, as you sit in that room and suffer all of the anxiety and all of the fear and all of the gut-wrenching nausea that comes with it, that is the instant that you stop getting sicker and start getting better. That is the instant you start to fight back, because up until that moment, it has been nothing but you just sitting there and letting the disease do its work. The instant you get that shock to the face, that slap in the face is that you've got cancer and you are now in the fight for your life. That is the minute that you start fighting back. And that's what 2020 has been to me. It has been the moment that revealed to me that we are not talking about Republicans versus Democrats or liberals versus conservatives or anything like that. It's become very clear what we are up against as a country and as a world, in fact. This cabal of people who are determined to tell us what to do. So it's a very trying time. But I got to tell you guys, I'm betting on America. I'm betting on the American people. I'm betting on biology. I'm betting on biology and conscience. I think these things are deeply ingrained, and I know the biology is, that I agree with Scott and Steve too. I think there's going to come a point when people have basically just had enough of it, and they're going to need an alternative. What I hope has happened in 2020 is that this has been the final slap in the face, that doctor's prognosis that is telling the citizens of this country that it is up to us. We are the Kraken. There is no Kraken to be released except for us. If we do not go out and get involved with our city commissions and our county commissions, our local state legislatures, then voting machines, electronic voting machines, are going to spread around the world like mushrooms. But if we decide to get up and do something about it ourselves, then we will be able to recover this country. I firmly believe it. And as far as the rest of the countries out there 10 years from now, there's games, many of you have played them, either Risk or Axis and Allies. And oftentimes you get a chance to pick your country in those games. And if I had to pick any country on the board right now, I'd go with America, despite all of it, the enormous trouble that we are in. We are in deep, deep trouble in this country. But I'd pick America, absolutely. I guess I could sum up where I think we're going to be 10 years from now in this weird sort of paradox. I saw an article that said that a vertical farm, a farm that grows plants vertically indoors with, it's kind of like a skyscraper for plants. So that a 2-acre vertical farm was significantly outproducing a 720-acre traditional farm.
Wow. And
it used something like 4% of the total water and all the rest of it. And I thought to myself, there's your evidence that the elitist doomsayers are wrong. We're going to run out of food. Well, no, we're not. We're going to run out of energy. Well, no, we're not. We're not going to do anything like that, because we have always been able to find a way to think ourselves not only out of problems, but into a better world. And I watch Elon Musk crashing rockets so fast that if he continues to crash rockets at the rate that Elon Musk is crashing rockets, we will be on Mars in 3 years. And
yes.
and I say to myself, the only thing that is stopping us is us. The only thing that's stopping us is us. There are no crises that we cannot handle. There are no shortages that we can't match. There are no technological barriers. We can do everything we said we can do and want to do. And the only thing stopping us is us. And so I think it's just a question of how weak do we have to be as a people and as patriots and all the rest to not be able to sell freedom to young folks. It's a mystery to me. But we are now in the battle of the narratives. They're not coming at us with firearms. You can blast your Facebook screen with your AR-15 all you want to. That's not going to make a difference. I hate to be the person to break it to you folks, but the three of us that you're looking at now, we are your Defense Department. And you are the soldiers in this cultural war to take back the story of America. And I absolutely firmly believe we're going to do that. I don't have the slightest bit of doubt about it, no matter how depressing and appalling things get. And that's what the show is about, by the way, is bringing you the depressing and the appalling on a weekly basis. No matter how bad it gets, I absolutely 100% believe we're going to find ourselves in a better America than it used to be. You can take an old car out of a junkyard and you can make it look like it was made that day. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it because we have had the living daylights scared out of us by this miserable, horrible, wretched year, which is crowning a not super great decade. So let's just get past it. And if it's going to get darker before it gets dawn, let's just keep on marching because we got a lot of work to do here. For Steve Green and Scott Ott and Shelley and Mark and the rest of the crowd here at BillWhittle.com, I think it's pretty much all of us. It has been a pleasure serving you these last 10 years and this last year especially, and we're going to be doing a lot more in the future. We are here because of the support of a small number of people who are determined not only that they make these messages happen, but they make these messages happen for free. And we need your help. It's just that simple. So if you want to go to BillWhittle.com, become a member, you need to be on this team. You need to be on this team, pulling on the rope with the rest of us, because we are going to drag this old lady out of the mud. There's still life in the old girl yet. I am 100% convinced of it. 10 years from now, we're going to be sitting here looking even better than we look right now, and we will be laughing, I say, at those dark days when we all thought everything was coming to an end. Have a happy new year. Have a very happy new year. And we will see you in January of 2021. We're going to hit the ground running. And until then, you take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next year right here on Right Act.